Episode of Women Empowered from Roots to Rise. Sweet tea and caramel cake. Kitchen conversations, guys. These are the conversations that you have in your kitchen, the conversations that you have on the phone with your girlfriend, with your cousin, with your mom, your aunties, all the folks you love. But these are the conversations that push us forward, that keep us empowered as women, and they stabilize our roots to rise.
Good morning, ladies. So welcome everyone who's viewing, who's listening. This is From Roots to Rise, Women Empowered. We are here with kitchen conversations, and we just want to talk, be organic, and have some fruitful conversations with women who are doing things for other women, and just talk about things that are relevant to us as women as we evolve and grow and navigate through this world. So my name is Lacresha and I'm one of the hosts. Dr. Michelle, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I get to introduce myself now. Hey, y'all. I'm Dr. Michelle Gillis, and I'm so happy to be here with Lacresha. I love these kitchen conversations. We get so much done, things that are on our minds and on our hearts that perhaps are happening in kitchens all across America, all across the world. We're just bringing it out there for all of us to share into. And I am so pleased to have my dear friend, who is a life coach extraordinaire. You'll hear more about her in just a little bit. I call her Coach Yamz, but her legal name, her government name is Yaminah Mitchell. And she has an amazing practice where she helps women stop saying yes to stuff. So I'm going to say it in a different way, the way that she would say it. She teaches women how to learn to say no to shit out of obligation. Did I get it right?
Stop doing shit out of obligation. That's what I'm helping women do. Yes.
And you are amazing at it. Like, you have no idea. You're going to probably block me one day, but for right now,
no way.
Now, I'm just so grateful that you still take my phone calls where I'm like, do I need to do this? You're like, no, don't do that shit. I know. But all jokes aside, you're teaching women how to come from a place of truth and authenticity, and not to continue to say yes and to continue to allow people to overstep our boundaries. And that's hard because so often, you all know this, as women, we're taught to be polite and we're not taught to be authentic.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yes. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming.
It's truly our pleasure. I say we jump right on into this conversation.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Yes. So we're talking about complicated mother-daughter relationships. I'm a mother and a daughter. What about you, ladies?
Mother and a daughter.
I am only a daughter.
Okay.
And I am team fuck them kids, if I'm being honest. I don't want no kids, not out my body. Hashtag rich auntie life. That's my goal.
Those are the very ones that will have like 10 kids. Lacresha, we'll be going to baby shower after baby shower after baby shower for Yamz here.
No. No.
We got you on tape. I remember when you said
please pull the receipts, please.
Later recording. We got it on.
For so many women, because of just really conflicted feelings about the relationship that they have with their mothers, or their mother has passed on. So we do want to honor that space. We understand that this holiday is not a happy holiday for everyone. Right. And I think I want to first come from this perspective of being a daughter. We'll talk about being a mother in just a moment, but being a daughter, Yamz, how have you maintained your own boundaries while still honoring and respecting your mother?
So it's an interesting question to be asked at this moment, because there's been some behind the scenes. The best way that I can put it, and I've had to journal through this to get language around it, is I set boundaries with my mother to make space for myself, to make space to figure out who I am, what I like, what I don't like, the life that I want to live. Because for so long, I have lived for other people, carried other people's bags, made sure other people's shit was handled. So I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. And so I had to step away from that to get clarity to even figure that out. And I set the boundaries, and I've maintained the boundaries, such as, like, there was an issue where she would call repeatedly and there's no emergency, but she would call. And it didn't matter what time of day, if I was at work or whatever, I'm just supposed to be available. And so that's a boundary that I've been able to maintain, and that's been fine. And with setting boundaries with my mom, I know that there's importance in positive reinforcement. So when we end calls, I always let her know that I enjoyed our phone call and that I look forward to the next one. And so to me, that has been enough. And our engagement has been, it seemed positive. But then on the back end, I'm hearing from my sister, who I grew up with and essentially raised, that our mother feels like I don't like her. And so now I'm in a weird space of, I thought that things were amicable and moving forward, but her lack of growth or her misunderstanding of me is now causing me to have to refigure out and recalibrate my boundaries.
I get that. And it's hard though. Even though, as life coaches, the three of us are all coaches, we know that we're not responsible for other people's feelings. So
Right.
with your mom feeling some kind of way, that's on her. But it's still difficult as a daughter. And I don't know about, the two of you. As a daughter, I feel responsible for my mother's well-being, because I'm so grateful that she took care of me when I was unable to take care of myself. So I take on, I think, a lot of her emotional, I don't want to say baggage, but a lot of her emotions. And it's hard to like pull it apart, to unweave it. So I definitely understand where you are with, maintaining your boundaries, but then also feeling, maybe betrayed or hurt, with your mom not being receptive to your needs and feeling hurt by the stance that you've taken.
Yeah. And so recently my sister has recommended us do therapy together. And at first it was, am I okay with it being therapy, or am I okay with just being a three-way conversation? And at first I was open to the three-way conversation, but then I talked about it with friends, and I've processed my emotions since that came up, along with the topic of suicide ideation, which my sister never knew is something that I've struggled with my entire life. She wants to sit down and address these things. And I appreciate her for being the person that has brought this to the table, because for so long I've been that person, and I laid that cross down years ago. I'm not doing it no more. And so I want to honor her attempt at continuing to heal our family. And so I am open to a sit down with a therapist, just so that there's a third party there to help carry the conversation along and maybe prompt some things that everybody can walk away with some value. So
you bring
it's
up
a weird ass space to be in, though.
You bring up a really interesting point, and I want to kind of toss this over to you, Lacresha, but you and I have talked about mental health. So it's a very interesting dynamic when we see the matriarch, and in many of our families, the matriarch is unhealed. She has not had an opportunity to process the trauma that comes from living in America, right? So she may not have received counseling or therapy or whatever, and she's constantly pouring into her family as a martyr. We've seen that so many times. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on how do we offer love and acceptance and grace and healing to these matriarchs while also remembering that we are the child, that we're the children, and not overstepping our bounds. Like, we're coming from a place of, our generation has done the work. Healing was a part of everything that we've done since, like, kindergarten. We had, these circles, let's talk about our feelings, like we are coming from a different place of growth than the older women in our family. So how do we share what we've learned about boundaries, about relationships, about healing, about taking time to process what you're feeling, and share that with these older women, without being disrespectful?
I think you so much there to unpack, first off. Let me say that. But I want to go back to something that you said, Yamz, about being misunderstood. And that, I think that's a big hurdle that mother-daughter relationships have, right? The misunderstanding who you are today, right? So she knew the child, but she doesn't know the woman. I deal with that with my mom. And so that evolution in the relationship never happens. And that's where I feel like we have that gridlock, because we're trying to be who we are, who we're becoming, and, who we see ourselves as today as women. But then, like you said, Michelle, we're trying to be respectful. And in their generation, respect is really defined in a different way. Staying in a child's place, but guess what? I'm not a child today. So how do I be who I am today? Right?
That's it. You're still their child.
Correct. But that evolution never happens, right? So the evolution in the relationship. So just like we are, with our partners, as you grow and he grows or she grows, like you grow together, those relationships evolve. But the mother-daughter relationships become stagnant sometimes. And I think they can only give from their portion. And that's what I've had to personally go through, right? And like you said, separating who I am, separating what was given to me, unintentional, because all the intentions that our mothers, raised us with, I attribute that to love. I attribute it to, this is how I know what to do and do the best for you with what I have, right? And so I'm going to give you that. But unintentionally, they give us their best and their bad. The baggage, the good, all of it. And we, until you're conscious, and like you said, we grew up in a generation of acknowledging our feelings, self-evaluation. It's okay to be honest with your stuff. It's not who you are, your due, and all those things are separate, versus you keep it all together. You show up put together at all times. I don't care how you feel. You don't have to look like it, right? Like, and then you don't talk about your stuff. And what happens in this house stays in this house. Like that's ingrained culturally and generationally. So for us to pull apart from that is unpacking like generations of stuff that is just like the weaving of that is deep. It's deep. And then when you think about, okay, how can so as a mother, I think I have this dual consciousness when I think about it, because my daughter is 24. So I'm looking at her as she has grown over the years. I want to grow with you. I don't ever want to get stuck in your 5-year-old self when you're 10. Like, I want to be with you when you're 16 and quit treating you like you're 6. Like, because if I don't acknowledge who you are today, I'm not going to be a part of that process, which means I have to grow too. And it's a little uncomfortable sometimes. Or I don't believe that mindset was as a parent with our mother's generation, because I'm the mother, you're the child, and period, right? And it stops there. And even though we are no longer children, so it's kind of like, how do you catch it up? And then going back to what their background included, if they don't have whatever your portion is, that's all you can give from. So my mother's relationship stopped with her mother at an early age. So you might be stuck in your own emotions there. You don't know how to move into the 20s with me, you don't know how to do that. And so, but I need it, but you don't know how to give it. So there again, we have to just be able to receive what they give as their best, right? And I think they're in all of that, somewhere are challenges, and that's some way, we have to figure out how to pinpoint which one to start from to lead us to a better place with them.
Yeah, and I think that is so important. And it still begs the question, how? Like, how do we do this? Because we know that the problem exists. We know that they can only give from what they have. But that does not negate the fact of our own needs. So, Yamz, what have you learned to do? I mean, clearly setting boundaries, clearly, giving your mother grace when perhaps that's not your first reaction. But are there any other practical tips that you can give to women who are navigating this, that they have fully embraced their feelings and they know who they are and the position that they're coming from, and then their mother's generation may be unhealed?
Yeah. And so I know an example that I recently gave my sister, and something that I've been turning over in the back of my mind that I recognize I'm going to have to reapply, is there was a period, so recently my mother apologized to me. She asked me about home improvement things because I've done that type of thing because I'm a homeowner. And she had some questions about that stuff. And then after she got to the end of that, she slid into an apology about how at the time when I had distanced myself, she felt that I was being weak, and maybe that's what it is. But she understands now that she had put too much on me, and that was not fair, and she apologized. But it's wild because she laced it with a backhanded compliment.
We're all laughing. We all know that.
And when I told my sister this, I told her, I said, I acknowledge that our mother comes from a different time. So that's her best apology that she has. So I accepted it. And also I stated, there's great strength in vulnerability and being willing to break down and burn some shit to the ground and rebuild. Mm. That's how I dealt with that. And it's something that I did when we first went into this boundary work, i.e. me going into this boundary work. And she had told me that my mom had expressed to me at some point that it felt like she had to walk on eggshells around me. And I told her, I said, you don't have to walk on eggshells. You ain't never got to guess what I'm thinking or feeling, sister. I will tell you if you ask me. Yeah. But the thing is that they aren't good at the language of it. So I believe that the most practical advice I have is when a scenario presents itself, address it in that moment. And when I first started doing this boundary work, my mom had made a comment about being on the eggshells and not knowing if something was going to offend me. And I told her, I said, well, there's an example I can give you. When I shared something with you and you told me, oh, you'll be okay, like, man up. But she didn't say those words, but that was essentially the tone. I told her, I said, when you say things like that, it makes me not feel like this is a safe space and I don't want to share with you.
Can I put a pin in that? Because I've had that experience, and that was the last very real conversation that I had with my mother, who is so kind and so loving, and would do and has always done things for me, like always, sacrificed her own needs for me, for mine. However, I was going through something and my mom basically said, man up. And I was like, that's not what I need. The rest of the world tells me to man up, to take it on the chin. You're my mother. Yeah. I need you to mother me right now.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that that's what I needed, but I needed to be comforted. And this is going to sound like overly dramatic, but I needed a bosom to fall into, and I needed my head stroked. I needed to be mothered. And in that moment, after sharing that with her, I realized I have to learn to mother myself.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a good conversation for us to have right now about ways that we've learned to mother ourselves when our chosen mothers or our biological mothers are incapable or unwilling to do that. But before we move into that conversation, I'm going to do this because I feel like the Lord is telling me. I am drinking this Dunkin' Donuts latte right now. We would love to have a sponsor for these kitchen conversations. Dunkin', if you're listening, we would absolutely love to talk to you about being a sponsor of kitchen conversations. So
there we go. That's great.
Close mouth don't get fed.
That's right. That's good stuff.
We're giving you free advertisement here.
There you
go. Yes. How have you learned to mother yourselves?
I wonder if I was just gonna say, listening to that scenario, there's times where mothering is so challenging, and this comes from, I'm always with the dual perspective, right? Because there's times where I know my daughter is seeking just that from me, but I recognize at that point in her life, it would be a hindrance if I gave her that. And so the mothering part is me saying, pull your pants up, stand up, and this you're gonna have to deal with on your own. Like this time you got, like those are strategies that I feel are the right thing in that moment to give her, that, it's not for me to coddle you right now. Like, I know that's what you are desiring, but I will cripple you from the next thing if I do that in this moment. This might be pivotal for you. And I think as a mother, there's times where you sense that you have a knowing about those moments. And it's just internal, I guess, maternal instincts or whatever. And so you have to do the best, right? And hope for the best, because we don't get the rule book, but you hope that's the best decision in that moment that will grow them and not keep them there, keep them stuck, because sometimes we can hinder growth when we shelter emotions that it might be something she needs to learn how to manage,
I agree with that. And also, the scenario I told you about was about me saying that my arm was sore after the COVID vaccine.
Ow. Yeah.
I didn't even need like coddling. I was just sharing my experience, and then I got man up, and I'm like, well, damn, like I ain't got to share, ma'am.
Yeah.
Make it real hard to even share simple things. So why would I dive deeper into anything with you?
That's right. I think that's another key, though, learning what to share and what not to share. I've had to, so being an entrepreneur, that's my life. That's a part of who I am. So I want to talk about it, but I cannot have those conversations with my mother. For some reason, they go down the wrong, so I don't. So I keep it very much about the kids and just topical surface stuff, because we can live in a happy place there. I quit trying to force that part of me into our relationship, because if it's not feeding me, it's taking from me, it's causing contention between us. So I got the memo. Like, the kids are good. He got karate. I have a son, and she's laughing, having a great time, and we can connect there. And I think just like with any other relationship, you have to find the place of connection and live there. Just, you know what I mean?
That's wild. Is that that's where our relationship is. I have found where that sweet spot is. And so we keep it at that point, and that's where we connect. And then she's still telling my sister that she thinks I don't like her and that there's some contention between us. And I'm like, this blows me, lady.
Yes. Same. I get the same. You don't talk to me about anything, but when I try to open up and share, I get cut off, shut down. I can tell she's not really taking it in, and maybe not taking it in the way I need to be received, because that's a big part of who I am. It just may not be the part where we need to live right now, Yeah.
And so,
and I just want to interject here, just coming from that duality of being a mother and a daughter. Sometimes I felt the need that I've had to ask my daughter, what do you need right now? What version of me do you need right now?
Yes.
You need the matron that holds you, that coddles you, or do you need my life lessons? And by having those types of conversations with my daughter, I've also learned to let my mother know, right now, I don't need you. I don't need advice from you. I don't need you to tell me what I need to do. I just need you to love me right now, to pray for me, to accept that I'm doing the best that I can. And it's interesting, Lacresha, when I heard you just speaking just now, our mothers, I believe, regardless of what our relationships are with that person, our mothers have our best interests at heart, and they want to protect us. So you're absolutely right when you say there's some conversations that you can't have. I can't have with my mother. My mother, and many women her age, were born in a generation where security was everything. Where you have a job, you work that job until you retire, you get your watch, you get your pension, and you go off into the sunset. So for me saying, I'm quitting my job to follow my bliss, and then for me to say, you know what? I moved in the wrong direction. I'm getting ready to pivot and do something else, is the equivalent of me telling her that I'm an alien or something. Like, she just doesn't get it.
That's right.
She does that because she wants to make sure that I'm fed, that, that I'm healthy,
All that.
all of that. And I kind of want to throw this into the mix because we talked about culture, and I think we're, as 3 African-American women, we bring a different perspective to this conversation than other women might. I've often been told that Black mothers raise their daughters and they love their sons.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important. I think it's important that we talk about that. And I have to say this, the beauty. I know our last podcast, Lacresha was just on the phone, but I am loving seeing y'all's reactions, seeing your beautiful faces. Seeing Yamz having to take a sip of water after. And again, Duncan, you could be a part of this. Come on, Duncan.
Come on, Duncan.
But yeah, I was gonna say, to answer the question about how you mother yourself through things when you don't have that support. Inner child work, and feeling the feelings has been what works for me. There have been times where I have, in the midst of setting the hard boundaries, had to ugly cry real hard, and then lay in a fetal position and comfort myself and tell me that I'm okay, and that I'm going to make sure that I take care of me, and I'm not going to abandon me, and that I'm going to make sure that I can get me back to a good emotional state. So meditation, journaling, ugly crying, talking the shit out, some more of that on repeat. Sometimes I don't open the blinds. I take a day away from people, leave my phone on do not disturb, and just do what I want to do for however long I want to do it. It looks like however it needs to. It looks like naps in the middle of the week.
That's right. And you know what's so huge about that? I think our mother's generation, they didn't have the permission to do that.
Absolutely.
And so we've taken that, and we've had to kind of take it by force and with some hesitation, and all the things we're talking about now, I believe, are wrapped up in why that's just not second nature for us, and that it's even a conversation that, you know what, I'm going to take a nap because I need one. That's not how, they didn't have that luxury to just kind of take off from life and deal. I think about what you were saying, just the ugly cry, taking time to deal with our emotions. And I've done that many times. And I wonder, my mom, I'm like, you were a single mother. You had 2 girls. I know this happened. You were married. Like, I know you went through these things. I never saw it. And how you are able to stay so contained, so it seems, in every moment, has always blown my mind. When the more I learn about life and go through these moments, I'm just like, what did that look like for you? But then I also settle in a place where I'll probably never know the answer to that. And just, when I can, if she receives it, try to give her the celebration and the acknowledgement that, I see your strengths, because man, I know what I do to keep my mind, to keep my sanity, right?
And that's it. We're the first generation that has been allowed to rest. It's a luxury that we get to say, world, I don't want you right now to turn off the phone, to close the blinds, to take a nap in the middle of the day. The generations prior to us didn't do that. They grind. It was grind. They had to do it. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't take a moment, regardless of, the frayed relationships that many have with their mothers, those complicated relationships, but just to take a moment to honor those women who got up morning after morning, bruised to the bone, exhausted, catching hell from the men in their lives, from sometimes other women, trying to raise children, trying to hold down a job, oftentimes multiple jobs, trying to figure out who they were within their own relationships with their mothers.
Right.
Like I have so much respect for my mother and the other mothers that are out there that did and are doing the very best they can, and who are exhausted. Absolutely exhausted in mind, body, and spirit, and perhaps don't have the tools or don't or the resources to know how to heal.
Yeah.
And because, and I think it's important to note this too, that because we're coming from a place, the three of us, from having done the work, we understand that those emotions, that fatigue, that conflict and stress lands in the body. So we know, the three of us here, that it shows up as breast cancer, that it shows up as ovarian cancer, as high blood pressure, as diabetes, as
Lower back pain, anything.
all of that, like all of these
Everything.
emotions, all of
Yeah.
this negativity does show up in the body. And that, seminal book, The Body Keeps the Score. Y'all read that, because it's true. Like, our body has the last word. So
Yeah.
how do we, at least in the few moments that we have left in this call, what can we offer to those women who maybe this is new to them, that they think that they just have to carry it and that there's no price? There's a price at the end. There's definitely a price at the end. So what words of encouragement or of education perhaps can you share with a woman who may not know yet what the two of you know from the work that you've done in your own lives around this topic?
I would recommend Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, because it specifically breaks down whatever's ailing you. It tells you what could be causing it, and it gives you an affirmation to undo it. And the other thing is, if it ain't a hell yes, it's a hell no.
That's great. That's great advice.
You've got to move in a way that's intentional with your time and your energy, because if you don't, the world will suck you dry.
So true.
So good.
That is so true. I guess I would say incorporate movement. Since we are talking about the body, our physiology affects our psychology, and sometimes we forget that. So, you don't feel like doing a thing, so you let your body lead your mind instead of taking control over that, and just put your body into motion to do something. Even when you don't feel like it, it will change your thought process. And so while you're in an elevated place of thought, I would say take time, to journal and identify. It can be as easy to say, I feel down today. Next question, why do you feel down today? I feel down today because, right? Next question, why do you feel down today? Because, and fill in the blank, and go 7 levels deep. And every, answer, the next question is why to that answer, and continue to go all the way to number 7, asking why, and it will reveal something to you that you don't know about yourself that you need to deal with, because we can't undo things that we don't identify. So once you identify that root, then you can start to put things in place to get it out and put a new practice in its place, right? Because once that hole is opened up, something else will go in there. But be intentional, like you said, about what you put in its place, and then do that over and over again, because it's definitely a daily ritual, and a habit that you want to become a part of your belief system to help you, morph into who you want to be, and eliminate some of those things and heal from any traumas that need to be identified.
Yeah, you got to practice at becoming the new you.
Yeah, yeah, it's a practice.
Really good.
Yeah.
For me, I would have to say, taking a moment to spend time in nature, whatever that looks like. It may be gardening in your backyard, or in just a little plot of dirt on your patio, or if you have a park or green space in your community, just pulling away, leaving your phone on do not disturb in your pocket. But there's something so healing about nature, and it's the best distressor ever. But it also, I believe, allows for clarity. As I'm walking, just entering into this green space, entering it with a question like, how do I resolve this, or how should I approach this? It never fails that by the end of the walk, by the end of taking my hands out of the soil, whatever it is, I have the answer that I needed, and I have the direction that I need to take. And I think that that is something that was taken away from our mothers' generations. Our grandmothers had it. Most of our grandmothers had their gardens. They had that time in nature. Our mothers were grinding because they were that generation, you know, that had to achieve, you know, it was just a different time. They had to get degrees, they had to work, they had to do that. And then we're embracing that time back in nature of stillness, of understanding that we don't have to be on all the time. As far as books, and Yamz, you recommended this book to me along with Coach Jess, but I cannot stop talking about this book. And you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Rest is Resistance.
Tricia Hersey.
Book. Oh my goodness. That book, it has really made me rethink how I'm spending my days and why I felt the need to spending my days. And for those of you all who haven't read it, Hersey is the author's last name. I can't remember her first name. Tricia Hersey. This idea that our bodies are divine, that we are not machines. And when we buy into a capitalist society or mindset that teaches us that we have to be a part of the grind culture, it goes against our divinity and why we were created in the first place. And the best way to honor our God and our own selves as creation is to rest.
Absolutely. Rest. That's fantastic.
And I
that is fantastic. I think the pandemic taught us that, you know, if we were paying attention, you know, because it, outside of all the negative that came with it, the pause gave us that time. It was a forced rest that most would not take, you know, and you were able to see that I don't have to do the grind. I don't have to do these things every day, and my life won't stop moving in the way that I want it to. That's huge.
Yeah. And I was going to say, one of the other things that I feel that we're able to give our mothers as we continue to do our own work is to demonstrate to them these new ways in which options are available to live life. And so with the resting thing, like to give honor to mothers and the generation before us who grinded. I grew up being taught that hustle is life. Like I had 3 jobs at some point and would hold down multiple jobs at one time. And now this book, along with all the work that I've done, it's very much, no, we're not working hard anymore. And so with me telling my mom about me stepping into entrepreneurship, it's, oh, well, you're going to have to work hard. And I said, no, we're doing things with ease now. And so I do feel like she's hearing some of the things, some of it's seeping in. It's just not going to be a radical shift like it has been for me, because I don't know if she thinks she doesn't deserve the space to figure this out. And she's retired now. Yes. But, you know, I encourage her the best that I can through demonstration, and letting her know that she can put on something fancy to just go to the grocery store or sit in.
I love that so much. And it actually brings me to my next question. And you kind of answered it, but I really want you to articulate it very succinctly. If you had one gift to give your mother, what would it be?
Like a physical gift or an emotional gift?
Either.
Anything that's okay.
While you're thinking, I'm going to say what mine is. My gift to my mother would be rest, that she does not have to work in order to receive. I want her to be like a lily in the valley, that she knows that her needs are going to be met without her having to work for it. Yeah. So my greatest gift to my mother on Mother's Day is rest.
My gift to my mother would be joy. I have known my mother as long as I've been here, to the best of what I can see and observe. And I don't know if I've ever recalled a time where she's had true, deep joy. And I want that for her before she leaves this place.
It's beautiful.
That's good. And my gift to my mother would be freedom to liberate the woman that she left behind when she had kids and when she dedicated the rest of who she was at the time to raising and implementing all that she had into us, and leaving the vision of herself that she knew she could become. So I would gift her the opportunity to pick up where you left off and live the life that you've always seen in your mind's eye before life came in and said, no, this is what you need to do and have to do. Pick up and do what you feel, and just be liberated in who you are.
That both of those so absolutely beautiful. I have to ask this question, as well as women who have grown, who have matured, who have learned to trust our own inner light. What advice would you give? What gift would you give to your daughter or to the daughters in your life, whether they're mentees or nieces, but the young women who you in a way mother? What's your gift to each of them? And Lacresha, I'll start with you.
So I have lots of daughters because I've worked with youth and, teaching and all that. And so the one thing that it's always on my heart is that you are enough, that you're unique, you are created with a purpose, you are wonderfully made, and there is no one else like you. And if you can go through life with that in your mindset in every space you walk into, you can own your power in every season of your life. You are always enough, and you're equipped to be who God has designed you to be. And all you need is inside of you because you're a seed. So when you get to the right space, those things will be released, and never doubt that. Even when life tries to make you. Yeah.
I would give daughters choice. I want people to know that there are so many choices if you stay curious about life and about what you may like or not like, what you may know or don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And if you give yourself room to be curious, to wonder, to explore the choices that are available to you, even if they're not the right choice, because there's no such thing as right or wrong. You just make a choice and then you make the next choice to course correct if that's what needs to happen. There's no shoulds, there's no need to, you have a choice. You're either choosing to participate or you're choosing to not. Make that choice for you though.
That is really good too. And I just have to add, for a lot of women, I know this was true in my own life, not making a choice was actually a choice. And I didn't realize that at the time. I think the advice that I would give to my daughters would be that there are only two emotions, and they need to be very clear on which of those two emotions that they're going with. On one hand, there's love, and on the other hand, there's fear. And every single encounter they have is going to come from one of those emotions. So for them to take a deep breath and decide where they want to encounter that other person or that situation. Are they coming from a place of love, even if they don't understand, but just finding love in their heart? Or are they coming from a place of fear where they're unable and incapable of moving forward? So that's my advice to my beautiful daughters that are listening. So you all, this has been lovely.
Yes. Thank you. This was so fruitful. Oh my goodness.
Yes. So like a hug.
I am, I'm going to keep recording. You can edit this out, right? Okay. So I'm just going to keep recording in case there's something still good in here.
Maybe I'll say, based on everything that we talked about today, what is empowerment to you?
I think that my superpower is demonstration. Because I've had so many women tell me that they are inspired because they see me in action doing things and living life. I feel like we sit around and we feel like, oh, I couldn't do that. Or it feels unattainable or far away when we don't know somebody actually doing a thing. And so I think that me being regular me, but super awesome me because I'm not regular, just being me and being out in these streets and engaging and living life and just laughing and loving. It empowers other people to know that they have the option to do the same thing.
Yeah.
That is really good. And when you said that, I don't know if we had examples of the women that we are now.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, and maybe I need to speak for myself, but growing up, I don't know that I saw a woman living the way that I'm living now and making the choices that I've made.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Our daughters have that, but I don't know if I had that. And
Right.
And
I've had to craft me from people that I've collected through stories and movies and positive influences and all the life experiences. I've culminated together who I am now. But it's not because it was like a Yaminah over there doing what I do.
And I don't know if I realized that until just this moment, hearing you speak, that there wasn't anyone walking the path that I could look to and say, I want to be like that person. That I did have to pull this from this person and this from this person and create this Frankenstein monster from all these different parts.
Yeah.
Wow. That's an epiphany for me.
So I think that's so good. Duncan, shout out.
Trying to get a good shot. I can't get there.
There we go. That's a perfect picture right there too. Gotta get a screenshot of that.
We're getting a sponsor, y'all.
That's so good. I wonder if, every generation deposits what they have into the next generation for who they are supposed to be, like, in this world, and so it's like we were able to take the strengths that were given to us in order to walk out, like you said, and demonstrate this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. And so whoever our daughters walk into, they will have done the same, not only from the strengths from us, but what they've gleaned from our mothers, and then to do something that maybe we've never seen, and that they've never seen. You right? Yeah.
That's really good. This is such a good Mother's Day message.
It is.
Thank you.
So let me ask this question in one word. Just your journey up to this point today in becoming who you are. What would your one word be?
I got 2 words. Beautifully terrifying.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
This shit has been wild. It has been scary, but it's been fun. And there's been highs and lows and everything in between. And it gets better the more I do it. And I don't think I've ever felt that way about anything. So it keeps me wanting for more, and keeps me curious. Ooh, child, I am living. And it is fan-fucking-tastic.
I love it.
I love that.
I love that.
This has been so rich. Awesome. Another episode number 2.
Yeah.
From Roots to Rise, Women Empowered. We wish you all the best. And for those who are mothers, happy Mother's Day. For those who are daughters, we wish you a blissful relationship with your mother. And if you are experiencing the loss of your mother, we're with you in that as well. You're in our thoughts and in our prayers. And we just wish every woman who is listening to this right now the courage and the strength to show up as who you are in every situation, every day, staying curious no matter what, and recognizing that you have the power to choose fear or love, to respond in the moments that come to you, and that you are enough. Thank you for joining us. But yeah.
If you or someone you love is having thoughts of suicide, please know that there's help out there for you. You do not need to suffer alone. It's as simple as picking up your phone, dialing 988, the suicide hotline. There's someone on the other end that can help you understand these thoughts, to help you get access to the resources that will allow you to move through this. Know that we are here for you and that we are cheering you on, and you are not alone.